Do I look tired? Yes, I look tired. Okay, it's late here, so let's get unready. SuP ChiCaS, it is Friday, which means it is time for TGIF. I hope you had a great week and that you did something to make that inner 12-year-old in you so proud. And if you're new here, this series is all about looking forward to 40 while taking a look back at the 90s and Y2K pop culture moments that shaped us into who we are today. Basically, it's a fun way for me to research something that I love while giving me something to talk about while I'm doing something ordinary as an ordinary 36-year-old. Everything just feels like an issue. I want to revisit the little girl in me who was so inspired and so hopeful of the future and who really thought that by some meet cute miracle Zack Hanson would notice her in the aisle of the Piggly Wiggly and be completely mesmerized by the amazing blue tortoiseshell glasses that I had that no boy could resist.
Chica, yeah.
I mean, there was real love in my heart for my celebrity crushes. And since it is the Friday before Valentine's Day, it seemed like a good time to see how my old unrequited loves are doing. Except for Kevin, who never thanked me for the giant Hershey kiss I bought him with my entire allowance in 3rd grade that I had to have his teacher sneak into his desk because I was too shy and he just never acknowledged it. Before I start, there was some breaking news this week that the shocking cause of Bob Saget's death, who is many of our beloved's TV dad, Danny Tanner, his cause of death was determined to be head trauma. And the family could only conclude that he hit his head on something, thought nothing of it, and went to sleep. That is horrific and so sad. And also for someone like me who has a little bit of medical anxieties, that is scary AF. How many times do we hit our heads, or our kids do, and we brush it off? Anyhow, it's just nerve-wracking. My thoughts and prayers go out to his family. I'm glad they can at least have some peace and resolution to an answer as to what happened. Okay, so we are going to keep this short and sweet like me because it is late here and I am ready for bed. I will link everything that I am using in tonight's skincare routine in the description below. I am not a skincare expert. I love what I use and I don't overthink my routine or order too much. I just make sure that my last step is either my squalane or Vaseline so that it's not a barrier to penetration of the other active ingredients. I usually put my most important ingredient on first after I cleanse, which currently for me is the Dr. Dennis Gross Advanced Retinol and Ferulic Intense Wrinkle Cream. I'm doing a review of this from Octoly for my TikTok channel, so they are not paying me to say this. I just really love it, and the smell is amazing. It smells like oranges. Okay, so first things first, I'm just gonna take off my makeup. So let's start with Ryder Strong because I found his story to be very interesting. Okay. Apparently, according to not only just like his castmates and crew, but personally, he has admitted this, he was very difficult to work with. He wanted to be a serious writer and a poet, and he felt almost above his role on Boy Meets World as Shawn Hunter, to the point where I guess they wrote in more elaborate storylines just to keep him interested in his role because he was basically miserable. So that's why his character development was so much more in depth and intense than maybe some of the other characters on the show. I could see this next thing too being frustrating, but everywhere he went off set or in public, fans expected that he would be like Shawn Hunter, but his actual personality was so different. He was very intellectual, very artsy. Once the show ended, he enrolled at Columbia University and went on to earn a Master's of Fine Arts in Fiction and Literature from Bennington College. He did return for the Girl Meets World show that came out and has some horror movies and some voiceover work in his IMDb. He's married now and a father, and he actually has a literary podcast called Literary Disco. It's up to date, it's current. So I just feel happy that he's working in a space that he was passionate about all along when we loved him as Shawn Hunter. So I'm glad you're doing super well, Ryder Strong. So I'm going to go wash my face and put on some pajamas. I just use CeraVe foaming facial cleanser, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not 100% sure how to put on this hair thing. Oh, that was easy. But so next is Freddie Prinze Jr. and he was definitely the runner-up for me, and I know what she did last summer because I was always team Ryan Phillippe. We'll get to him next, but He definitely won me over later in She's All That. Fun fact, his first guest role was on Family Matters, and I do not remember this. But as we all know, he married Sarah Michelle Gellar, and they're still married, and they have 2 children, which I think is just so adorable. I think they both seem like great, down-to-earth people. Like Ryder Strong, his IMDb features some smaller TV and movie roles and voiceover work, but he has a cookbook. Back to the Kitchen is what it's called. How adorable is that for you, Freddie? I love that. I guess he was enrolled in primary school prior to his first role. He's always had a passion behind it, and he's always been passionate behind the scenes about wrestling. He has a podcast called Wrestling with Freddie, and at the time of the recording of this episode, he just updated it yesterday. I myself, I'm a very creative and multi-passionate person, so it gets me pumped when I see other people going after their dreams. So good for you, Freddie. Sarah, I'm still a fan. Love you guys. So naturally, that brings us to Ryan Phillippe. I loved him, and I know what you did last summer. I still get butterflies when I watch Cruel Intentions, which, by the way, is going to be rebooted as a TV series. Something about, I think, fraternities or sororities in prestigious DC University. What did I read? Something about like coercion or seducing the vice president's daughter, something like that. Don't quote me on it. But anyhow, Ryan Phillippe went on to marry and eventually divorce from Reese Witherspoon. They have 2 children who are beautiful, by the way. And he also has a child with his ex-girlfriend, Alexis Knapp. He was also engaged to another woman. I couldn't find much about it, but I think from what I read, she filed a restraining order against him after he sent her harassing text messages. Don't have full details on that, just what I read. And he was also accused of assaulting another ex-girlfriend. So he vehemently denies this allegation. The story is very I'm not even gonna get into that. The resolution of that, it was at the end of the day, it was settled in civil courts for $1 million. Now on to Devon Sawa. Oh my God, you guys. Let me tell you, we can keep him. I can't tell you how many times I watched Little Giants and Casper because of Devon Sawa. And he's still out here making movies in Hollywood, even though he did take a break at one point in time at age 25 to become a real estate agent and a landlord in Canada. First of all, Final Destination is a banger movie. The storytelling, the way it made you feel, literally feel that anxiety, I felt like that was next level at the time. I don't know if it was my age and just not really watching a lot of movies like that back then or what, but I mean, it holds up. That's a good movie. His current IMDb list is pretty robust, and he will be starring in the television series of Chucky. And I feel like somebody in this list at every point has remade some kind of series from the 80s or 90s in current day. As much as I hate it, I love it. I'm always intrigued by it, and then they always end up kind of terrible. I don't know. I didn't love Chucky the movie, so I'm not that invested in it. I did see some interviews with him, and he was quoted in saying in one, "It was just my age, I think. I didn't want to be the pretty boy or whatever they were calling me, and I didn't want to talk about my favorite food or where my first kiss was, my most romantic song. These things weren't interesting to me." So I get that. Can you imagine being a 14, 15-year-old boy and the content of what a magazine, Tiger Beat, Teen Bob, whatever, is what's your most romantic song? I don't think boys were thinking about that back then. Now he is married. They have 2 kids. Aww. Okay, Paul Gosselaar. I don't know, people didn't really hang posters up about him when I was younger, but he was the 90s heartthrob. Zack Morris was one of the first loves in my life. One of the first dreams I ever had kissing a boy was on a beach, and it was Zack, and I remember it so clearly. He has had a very successful career in television, and he's aged quite nicely. In 2009, fun fact, he revealed that he dated all 3 of the girls from Saved by the Bell. Very curious about what that dynamic was like. I don't know. I mean, I guess it's very similar to the show, but did he date all 3 of the girls in the show? Obviously Kelly. And I know him and Lisa had some kind of little thing. Did he ever date Jessie? I'm gonna have to look this up, but if you know, look in the comments. He did return in the Saved by the Bell reboot that came out a few years ago, and then it was revealed that Zack Morris is now the California governor, and he's married to Kelly, his high school sweetheart. I think I sat down and tried to watch the first episode, but I could not. He married a model named Lisa Ann Russell in 1996, and they have 2 kids. They split in around 2010, and then he married an advertising executive in 2012, and they have 2 kids. So Zack Morris has 4 kids. Okay, I don't hear much of this name anymore, but this story was a little bit interesting, you guys. Andrew Keegan. Who remembers Andrew Keegan? Like, I remember him from Seventh Heaven. Okay, remember he was a teen dad, and as a child that was so interesting to me and dramatic. Like, this was well before the teen mom years, you guys. Like, seeing that in the storyline, especially to be dating a preacher's daughter, it was just wow. He was also, of course, famously in 10 Things I Hate About You. He recently starred in a Netflix series called Trinkets. I've never heard of this, but the description actually looks pretty good, so I might check that out. Let me know in the comments below if you have watched the show. He is now married with children. Here is the interesting part. He started his own religion. And I was like, what? Started his own religion? I clearly don't know a lot about this. I didn't know you could just start a religion, but he took a very spiritual path, went on a few very spiritual journeys. Yeah, he has now started a religion, and it's called Full Circle. I don't know details about it. He is very adamant it's not a cult. That's just what I know about him. And I was like, okay. So, Hanson. For me, there was only one heartthrob of this group, and it was Zack. There were people so obsessed with Taylor. Like, no offense, Taylor. Like, you all are great. And Isaac, oh, like, you're so great too. But for me, there was only Zack. They're still touring. I actually just texted my girlfriends because I found out they're coming to Richmond, which is only like an hour and a half, 2 hours away from where I live right now. And they're going to be here in July. So they're all married and have children now. Isaac actually married a fan that he saw in the crowd one day. They have 3 children. Zack is married with 4 children. And Taylor actually is married with 7 children. I definitely spent more time than I should researching if they were Mormon. They're not. But anyhow, they are still repping Tulsa, Oklahoma, which I remember begging my parents to take me to as a child. And they have a beer company now, and one of their beers is called Hops. I need it. So, spoiler alert, they were on The Masked Singer. I don't watch the show, but I do watch some of the clips. I find it very intriguing. When I watch their clips, any true Hanson fan would know that was Hanson. They made it to the top 5. This brings us to our final heartthrob and one of the most beloved, Jonathan Taylor Thomas, aka JTT, which by the way is a fan-made moniker that he detested. So I'm sorry, Jonathan. Oh man, like who else was attracted to a cartoon lion named Simba just because you knew JTT was the voice? He had long days on set. Poor Jonathan, like he worked for 9.5 hours a day, then he would have school. He was getting migraines every single day. He eventually was just over it. He was dealing with burnout and it was a lot. After Home Improvement, Jonathan Taylor Thomas graduated from a preparatory school in 2000, and then he was accepted to Harvard.
What, like it's hard?
From there, he transferred to St. Andrews University in Scotland. By the way, is where Prince William met Kate Middleton. And after 2 years, he eventually graduated from Columbia University in around 2010. Good for you, Jonathan. I vividly remember reading about him wanting to get his education in magazines when I was a kid. And it does make a difference, like as a kid, when you read that these people that you admire value their education. Anyhow, so he has made some small TV screen cameos, and he did some voice work, which is pretty much like every other one of the handsomes on this list. I did see that him and Zach Ty Bryan and Macaulay Culkin at one point were working on a project together. I couldn't find a firm update on it. I hope it still comes to fruition. It seemed like it might be pretty R-rated, which I love. Like I love when a child actor from our times comes out as an adult and just does something vulgar and that you wouldn't expect of them. I don't know why, I just love that. Like kind of like Bob Saget's comedy. Nobody expected that from him. Jonathan Taylor Thomas is a very private dude. Like he has no social media. I couldn't find a firm confirmation of where he is living or anything about his social life, which is pretty impressive to be who he is. One interview I read always mentioned that he never took acting too seriously. He always, from like the beginning, considered it to be just a phase of his life. At a young age, even in these interviews, he was saying he knows that every career has an end, especially for his age groups. Maybe that's what sets him apart from other child actors. I don't know how he's doing. I can't say how much it sets him apart from child actors because maybe he's not doing well and he's just kept it very private. And hopefully he's doing fantastic based on the only information that I could find about him. So Jonathan, I hope you're doing well. Reach out. I have a letter for you and I don't know where to send it. Anyhow, here is the only current known photograph that I can find of him. to this day. Those were my personal 90s heartthrobs. That's what they're doing now. I'm curious to know who your childhood celebrity crushes were. Leave it in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe and hit that like button, as it helps me tremendously, especially as I'm starting out on this series. And if you are younger and wondering why I am taking my skincare down my neck and down my chest, it's because wrinkles and sun damage happen all over here. Even when you get your face looking good, this will give you away. And mine is like, mine gives everything away. Mine's giving away my social security number. It's just like it gives no F's. No matter who's watching this, make sure every day when you put on your SPF that you are taking it all the way down. I am so ready for bed now. That was fun. Peace out.